Hey, so to welcome everyone to Tea and Scones today. It's Monday again. It's Easter Monday, and I forgot about this when organising Betsy to jump in today. So thanks, Bets, for joining us. Betsy Westcott, my niece, my overachieving niece. Welcome, Betsy.
Thanks for having me. Don't know about overachieving, but yes, I am your niece.
No, well, the last time I saw you was on Channel 10 on your on the huge show you did on the Channel 10 program. So do you want to talk about that?
Oh, that was very recently and really fun. We were so lucky. Myself and Molly from Ladies Finance Club were asked to come on and just talk about what people can do to kind of build some financial resilience during this time of coronavirus and job losses and uncertainty. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. It's great to dress up. No hair and makeup though, which was super disappointing.
Well, you still look pretty good, Bet. You're young enough, you get away with it, so it's okay. No, that's good. Well, as you know, the purpose of why I created the Monday morning Tea and Scones was in times like this, in what people call scary times or crisis times or whatever, is I think it's really important to have a good dose of positivity on a Monday morning. Help people focus on gratitude, think about the things that we have got that are working well and be grateful for those. And also health. Last week we had Angela with talking about health, and this week Bets with what you're doing with money, with Women's Financial Club, I think, whatever you've got.
Finance Club, but yes.
Okay, whatever
it applies to the boys too. We have a rule: dicks allowed, just no dickheads.
I think that's a very good strategy to have. Yes, I totally agree with that. But look, I think a good way to start off, and Shannon Waller joined us in the first couple of these from Strategic Coach over in Toronto. Yes. And when I was doing Strategic Coach, one of the things we used to start off every day, every meeting with was what we call the positive focus. So we'd always start off, and I still use it to this day, team meetings and so on, is basically say, okay, what are the things that are working? Because I think sometimes it's very easy to focus on what's not going right, what's not working, and if you watch the news, which you shouldn't probably most of the time, there's lots of negative stuff going on. So let's talk about what is working. And Bets, I'll give you time to think about what your week's been like, and I'm just asking you to think about 3 things that maybe have been really great for you this week. And I just want to touch on mine. In these days of social isolation, the aeroplane that I use, it's got a brand new engine, and we have to run it every week, otherwise we get corrosion and all that sort of stuff. So I took the plane out for a 30-minute flight yesterday, and I flew in, on forgotten what day it is. Saturday.
Is it?
Saturday, who knows what day it is. Anyway, so within the last few days, I took it up and I landed at little Cessna 182, landed at Brisbane Airport, which you just can't do in normal times. And it was just the greatest buzz. I was the only plane in the sky. I had all the air traffic controllers, like I was the only person they got to talk to, I think, for most of the day. And it was just such a great buzz. So that was one thing I've done. I've managed to get out and do some flying during the week, which was necessary for the purpose of the plane. Second thing is, whilst we've been in isolation, and my mum, I often talk about, who's 90, mum is in absolute isolation by herself in her apartment. She's still in great health. But yesterday, being Easter Sunday, I took her some oysters. Her favourite meal for a Sunday is some oysters. So what I do is I buy them, and I go to her apartment, I put them down at the door, and I step back about 20 paces, and she comes out. We have a chat from about 20 feet away from each other, which is just lovely for her to be able to have some human contact, I guess, and have her favourite oysters. But also, from a business point of view, this time has allowed me to think about what we're going to need in the future, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, and that is how I guess we're virtualising all the stuff that I do with my clients, and taking what I'd normally do one-on-one with a client and putting them into membership sites and online programs and all those sorts of things now, because that's what we're going to need during this period of time, however long it goes for, and certainly into the future as well. I think there'll be a trend towards a lot more online training and membership sites and so on. So So for me, through all the doom and gloom, I've had some great progress over the last week with family and all those sorts of things. So Bets, what about you? What are your good things that are happening in your life? Like everything.
Yeah, I think, the first one was getting out of quarantine. So as some of my family members know, I had to quarantine for 14 days due to being exposed to someone with coronavirus. And I was very lucky I didn't develop any symptoms, so I've been in good health. But boy, you really appreciate those little freedoms you have when you're not stuck inside in an apartment. And I'm pretty grateful that my husband and I got through it. We were like, we're coming out with a bassinet or divorce papers, but ideally not both. Happily neither.
Not that you know of.
Yeah, not that we know of anyway, yeah. But no, so that we got through that, and I think actually it was really nice just spending so much time together because we both got businesses, jobs, so we don't often get that kind of expansive time, just the two of us. So that was really exciting. I'm feeling really grateful that I still have my day job and I've got my side hustles, and they're both doing really well. Knowing the financial hardship a lot of people are facing, I feel really privileged to be able to help them at this moment, but also very privileged to have my job. And then on the third thing is probably I'm really excited about my husband's business, actually, because he's been grinding away at it for 7 years. And, he's in wine and spirit sales, and it's an e-commerce business. So he's been online for 7 years, but with everyone drinking more at home during this time itself.
This is the perfect storm for your husband and his business.
Kind of great for him. So, and I can just see in him to see all that hard work really starting to pay off, and for the business to really start scaling. I feel really, really lucky like that, because we certainly have other friends who run, Pilates studios and have had to shift their businesses completely online. And, he's sort of primed and ready for it. So it's been good. I think the only challenge is that Australia Post is a little overwhelmed right now, so delivery is a bit slower than usual, but hopefully we can overcome that soon. Yeah.
Well, and obviously people who buy his product are not happy with Australia Post, but they're very happy with him when they turn up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. He's getting a little love. And actually, it's really interesting looking. We did an analysis of the data about who's drinking what, and it was hilarious looking at say Sydney suburbs, the stereotypes. So we had like the North Shore, which is traditionally more conservative. We're like buying big on big Shirazes and Chardonnays, whereas like the eastern suburb, which is a bit more frou, we're like the biggest spenders. Anyway, we had fun analysing.
That's right. All the social modelling was proving itself, was it?
Yeah. We're like, oh, wow, stereotypes, they are true.
That's right. But look, the other thing I think is, we talk about, the positive focus and focusing on what's working, because it's very easy to talk about things that aren't going right. And I mean, at the end of the day, all that will do is lose your sleep, and there's nothing constructive in that whatsoever. So I think it's really important that each day we get up and we think about what are the three best things, before you go to bed at night, think about the three best things that have happened during the day, and focus on that, because you're always going to have a much greater mindset if that's happening. But the other thing is what are you grateful for? And I often talk about when I go for a walk or when I'm exercising. I have, that was four fingers, but I actually had a thumb. There's five things I focus on. I try and focus on each day. And the first one is family. So, I think about someone in the family that I'm very grateful that they're around. And my grandchildren tend to cop most of my gratitude these days because they're just so darn cute.
Yeah, very, very cute.
Very cute. So family is the first one. Health is the second one. The fact that I can still get out, get around, and enjoy this. The third thing is where I live. And I mean, you can look out behind me here, and I mean, look at the sky. It's just we're just so lucky. I'm so grateful for where we live in the world, and so many levels now that's proving itself to be true as well. The fourth thing I focus on, and Bets, I'm not sure what yours are that you focus on each day, but the fourth thing I'm grateful for is all the experiences I've had in my life at 63 years of age. I mean, I've done so many wonderful things, been to so many places, met so many interesting people and so on, and I reflect back on the great experiences I've had. And the fifth one is the things I haven't done yet. It's what to come, and you know, you can make that so exciting, can't you? Whether you visualize or you manifest or whatever, is just knowing that, you know, for a lot of people, you know, where they are, that their best is behind them. For me, I just keep focusing on the fact that there's exciting stuff ahead that I can't even dream about yet, and I am very grateful for the fact that I'm going to have a future and the things that I don't even know about yet. What do you tend to focus on from a gratitude point of view, Bets?
Yeah. Oh gosh, Mark, I think I need to take a bit more of a leaf out of your book. I tend to focus on my health first and foremost. I think because without it, you really have nothing. Definitely, there was a period last year where I didn't have great health, and I didn't, and it was really challenging to do anything beyond that. So I really am grateful for that, and understand, like, yeah, without that, you can't do the good work.
Got nothing. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. And particularly when we are looking at a global pandemic, which is threatening our health now more than ever, am I grateful for that. People in my life was always a big one, and I think it's the people around you that you get to share those memories with, that you can have great adventures with, that you can serve. That's something I always appreciate. And then just the opportunity that living in Australia, having the education that we have, having the government and the support that we have in terms of healthcare systems. There's no place I'd actually rather be. I love traveling. I've lived overseas. I love, exploring different cultures and languages, but I don't know if there's anywhere much better than Australia.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And look, just for those who are checking in too, Betsy, I've got a mug of tea, and I know yours is much more impressive than mine. And for both of us, I bought scones. So
thank you.
As I said before, I'm not allowed to eat, evidently, anymore. But I have them there, and I'll freeze it. I'll freeze it, and I'll use it again. I'll show it again next week. Hey, but look, one of the things, Bets, you're doing fantastic stuff in regard to what do you call it? Your other, not your real job, whatever you call it.
But Finance Club and my personal coaching business. Yeah. I
just love what you're doing. I've been watching your Instagram, your Facebook stuff, and so on, and you're really creating an identity and a presence and an awareness in regard to the financial side of life for many people, which. Having watched I watched one of your videos this morning where you and some guy were interviewing each other sort of on two couches and just talking about the fact that nobody teaches this stuff at school. So, and the other thing is, and I'll let you go in a sec, as in talking, I just want to get all my questions out in one go, was that, in the old days, the guys were more aware of all the stuff. They went off to work and so on. And nowadays, there's just as many women going to work every day as there are men, and yet I think the men still have the edge effectively in regard to financial literacy. And so what you're doing, I just really, really admire, and you're creating so much strength and confidence for women. So do you want to talk about what it is that you're doing, how you're doing it, and if people want to get involved in joining some of your online stuff, because that's all there is now. Please point them in the right direction.
Sure. So I have two little side hustles. The ladies
side hustles. That's the word I was searching for. Side hustle.
Yeah. And they're passion projects for me. So I don't really do them to make them my primary job or income. I do them because I love the work, and I love. I feel like it's my way that I can contribute to the world. I'm really lucky that through the course of my career, I've learned a lot about finances, and given it's such a fundamental part of life. Like money, it's kind of like food. We eat food every day, and we know that if we eat the right foods and exercise, that sort of leads to having a longer, healthier, hopefully happier life. Money's kind of the same thing. It's something that's fundamental to everything we do, and but unfortunately, there's not the same level of engagement and sort of push for education around it. But when you do have education, financial education, you can put into place some really simple habits and behaviors that will fundamentally change the opportunities that you're going to have in life. And I think a lot of the traditional messaging around this is that it is really complicated and leave it up to the professionals, and that, you know, it's beyond the reach of the everyday person. But it's not actually true. Basic financial literacy is fairly simple. I always say, like, if you got through grade 5 math, you've absolutely got the smarts to understand basic financial concepts. And honestly, understanding just the foundations is like 80% of what you need to know. Yes, when you're doing more complicated investment strategies or utilizing different types of structures, you definitely want to talk to a professional. But for things like your money mindset and your day-to-day budgeting and foundational investing, it's really simple stuff that I wish more people knew, because, as I said, it changes your outcomes in life, because if you don't understand it, you tend to misuse it as a resource. Someone else might control it, thus taking away some of your freedoms, and it can really get you into all sorts of trouble. So with the Ladies Finance Club, we definitely focus on women. We would love for it just to be the finance club, but given that women face a unique set of hurdles when it comes to achieving financial well-being, that's where we're focusing our energy. So, you know, as we know, there's a gender pay gap still of about 14%. Women are more likely to work part-time or have interrupted careers, typically to provide caring duties, which means they earn less money on average. And why that's problematic is it means they retire with less money. And given on average women live 5 years longer than men, it means they've got a smaller pot of money to last them longer. So, and that's why we're seeing an increasing number of women over the age of 55 experiencing financial hardship and homelessness because they don't have the financial resources to see them through that retirement. So that's why we focus on women. But like I said, I'd love for it to just be the finance club.
No, well, the other thing too is, Bets, I mean, the truth is that 50% of marriages end in divorce. So, you know, you're going to have both men and women. You're going to have, if women have the disadvantage for all the reasons you've mentioned already, and then they're by themselves traditionally with less money, except,
it's really tough. And I think the inspiring thing that I love to kind of educate people about is that it doesn't take a lot to create financial well-being for yourself. It's, you know, often making small changes to your behavior and doing it consistently that's going to drive those outcomes. So it's not about having a really huge salary, because when I was a private banker, I worked with lots of people with very, very big salaries that were in terrible financial shape. Because it's not about what you make, but it's what you keep. And when you keep it, what do you do with it? Do you just keep it, you know, under the mattress, or do you invest it and make that money work for you and start getting it to grow? And there's, I think, you know, for women in particularly, they tend to have, I think it's about 25% less confidence than men when it comes to money matters, and particularly investing. And investing doesn't mean, you know, putting it all into the stock market and super high risky things. You can create a lot of safety in investing with some really sound and simple strategies. So I just spend time teaching people about that. But I don't give advice. So I'm qualified as a financial advisor. But I'm more about educating people on the foundational stuff so that when they do engage a financial advisor, they've got half a clue about what's going on, because as we've seen, particularly with the Royal Commission, often people will get advice and they won't really know whether it's good or bad or indifferent, because they don't have that financial well-being there to kind of help them. So yeah, sort the good from the bad. So that's why I think the education piece is so important. Is it helps you feel confident in the decision making and not just like hand your money over to someone and hope for the best.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Look, I'm going to give you a plug here. Certainly, my daughter Angela, I know, who's had you involved in her gratitude gang talks and all that sort of stuff. I know Anne just set up different accounts like you suggested. You know, she's squirreling money away in a better way than she certainly was before. Yeah. And so a lot of credit to you for that, Bets. Well done. Okay. And well done for what you're doing too, because you know, it's financial literacy is a really important part, and you're doing a great job. So well done.
Thank you. Oh, it's such a pleasure to be able to see, you know, things like someone like Angie changing her behaviour. And I know for her a big motivation is creating security for those two gorgeous girls. And as you were saying, like, it's just a small tweak in the behaviour, and suddenly she's got a lot more resilience to life's ups and downs that she might have had previously. And I think that's really exciting and really so yeah, I love that. Like that.
No, well done. Hey, look, one of the questions we brought up a couple of weeks ago, Bets, is we just got a few minutes to go. One of the questions was Shannon was doing. Oh, good to see you've got your little teapot there.
Teapot, yeah.
Well done. One of the questions Shannon was talking about. I love great questions, and I love that, you know, how powerful they can be if you ask people the right questions. And one of the ones was, and I've downloaded this episode, and I'll put a link to it when I put this video up on Facebook. I'll put a link to there's a video and a download and so on. But it's basically you know, for the first 100 days, 100 days after this is finished, where do you want to be personally and professionally? So, you know, if you think about that question, you know, both personally and professionally, if I met you 100 days after we all go back to work and all this is over and done, tell me about what life looks like and what Betsy Westcott will be doing, and you know, how things will be different to how they are now, and so on. And I'm just going to quickly go through the thinking process that Dan uses and Shannon uses as part of that. And the first is to sit down and think about what has worked in your past. So it's kind of saying, okay, where do you get your morale from? What are you proud about from your past that has worked? So what are your winning achievements from maybe, you know, the last 5 years? What are the things that have worked really well for you? Second thing is to say, okay, what's working right now? So what's giving you confidence at the moment? What's giving you momentum right now where you've got confidence in regard to the things that are working for you, both personally and professionally? And then the third part of it is, okay, where's your motivation? What are you excited about? In other words, what's the bigger and better future look like? So when we look ahead, what are the best possible outcomes you can come up with when we come out the other end of that? And then having done all that, because what happens is when you look back and you look back at your morale, your pride on what you've done before, that in itself gives you a whole lot of confidence. You go, wow, you know, because most people focus on what they haven't got, not what they have done. So straight away when you go back and you focus on the things you have achieved, you get a lot of confidence and strength knowing, oh, okay, yeah, I was able to do that last time, so yeah. And straight away you're building up your muscles, your confidence muscles. What's working now gives you momentum as to, you know, you've got those muscles, you're moving forward and so on. So the key is to say, okay, in the first 100 days when this is finished, because a lot of people now are isolated, whether it's self-isolated or with what you've gone through, or they're just isolating anyway to stay away from other people. What are the 5 things that that you want to focus on in the first 100 days after this is all over? So, you know, it could be a new capability that you're giving to the people in your club, or, you know, depending whether you're looking at work or you're side hustle, as you call it here. So what are a new capability, a major new capability? Might be an online, it might be a blog you write once a week, or a video thing like this that we're doing that you do once a week. Is there a new marketing system? Is there a new resource that you're bringing out that people might be able to use? How are you going to engage differently with your clients and your prospects in the first 100 days? Because it's going to be like letting the cattle out of the gate. That's it, if you understand. I mean, all of a sudden everyone's going to be back out there in the world again. It's like, how do you deal with that? What are the other things that you're going to do, either from a health point of view or from a, for example, I'm already having thoughts about what I'm finding interesting in this period of time is the relationships you have. Like, who are the people that have really been there for you during this period, as opposed to the people you might have been spending time with in the past? Are they still showing up now to make sure you're okay, to help you, to work with you on things? So what are your relationships going to look like the first 100 days as we get out at the end of this? You're just going to go back to your old ways, your old relationships, or are you going to create some rules around, we have this thing called the 40-person future. So who's your 40-person future? Maybe that's one of the things you're thinking about.
What does 40-person future mean exactly?
Oh, you have 20 business relationships, 20 business relationships, 10 to 15 personal relationships, and you have 5 aspirational relationships.
Oh, cool. Okay, that one's going to require a bit more thought, I feel.
No, it's Betsy. It's a great. I mean, this is for another time, but it's look. It's a great way is to just limit yourself to a certain number of people that are really valuable in your life. That's not to say you ignore people and you don't talk to them, but you. I have this saying is that you. I'm not saying you squeeze people out, but you just don't make room for people that aren't in your top 40 club. So you're not rude or ignoring them, but you allocate your time you prioritize your time to the 40 people that are the most important in your life. And it's a really great list to make once a year, maybe even once every 6 months, because people will come in and people will go out each year. Even at my age in life, there's still people going out for whatever reason, and new people coming in, which is exciting. And I mean, it happens all the way through life. Yeah. And so write yourself a list of 15 to 20 maybe business relationships, 15 to 20 personal relationships, but leave some space there, Bets, for people you haven't met yet that you'd love to meet, that would make a really positive difference in your life, either from a business point of view or a personal point of view. And that's your 40-person future. So for example, for me, I'm going to get really clear. I've noticed some behaviour in the last 2-3 weeks, and it's kind of like, okay, maybe I don't need to spend as much time with those people anymore, and maybe these are people I need to spend more time with. So coming back to the exercise, it's really saying, okay, what's worked in the past that's giving you confidence? What's happening right now is giving you momentum. What's motivating you about the future? And write down 5 things. That's 5 things that are you going to really focus on in the first 100 days? Because we all need a plan. A positive plan for when we come out the other end of this. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love this kind of thinking. It's very exciting. And I'm with you about when you're setting intentions, it's sometimes amazing what you can achieve, because I've been a goal setter since, I don't know, I was like 10. And I still have all my annual goals I wrote for myself from about 10 onwards, which finds out
awesome.
It's so cool, because I look back at stuff I wrote, because I always write 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. Yep. And now, those years are passing, sadly, but excitingly. But I look back at some goals that I wrote, 7-8 years ago, and it's amazing what has actually manifested. Stuff that I thought was crazy, lofty, didn't know how that was ever going to happen, but just wrote it down, and then suddenly these things are happening. So that's
isn't that amazing?
For the exercise, yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you. There's 2 other things I'm just going to mention here too. Is that sometimes the goals you write down, Betsy, you will have experienced this. The strategic byproducts. When you aim for one thing, sometimes the strategic byproduct off the side is actually more valuable than the goal you wrote down in the first place, right? So, you might have written down, you want to save up X $1,000 and you want to put that in the bank. But what happens along the way? Or you might say, I want to get fit. I want to go in the Masters games, or I want to go and do a marathon.
Yeah.
But the strategic byproduct of training for the marathon or the Masters games is that you get fit, healthy, you look your best, you fit into the old. So they're the strategic byproducts. And sometimes when you want the strategic byproduct, you've actually got to give yourself a different goal, knowing that if you achieve that other goal, you'll end up with all the things that you really want, which are harder to go for by themselves. And the second thing I want to touch on was, and I have a book here, maybe I'll send it to you, it's a 25-year plan. It's one of the things I got from Strategic Coach is to create not a 1 year or a 10-year plan, but a 25-year plan, which is like, whoa, way out there, and I still have one.
Yeah.
Is a 25-year plan, and break it down into quarters. Now, you're talking about 1 year. I break things down into 90 days because 3 months you can see, it's easy, it's kind of like, and they're only tiny bite-sized chunks. And if you have a 25-year plan, that's 100 quarters. That's 1% per quarter. So when you focus on your really, really big goals for 25 years, and they can move. I mean, they're signposts in the future. They'll move left and right, and that's okay. But each quarter, you've only got to get 1%. And all of a sudden, so you can have a great quarter, and if you don't make it in that quarter, well, next quarter you can do 1.3% of the goal, and it's okay. But breaking stuff down into bite-sized chunks just makes life so much easier. So there's a thought.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we often overestimate what we can do in a year, but completely underestimate what we can do in 5, 15, 25, as you're saying. And I think those are the ones that, particularly in my generation, of like instant gratification.
I want it now.
Yeah, now I'm going to be famous overnight, or whatever is the goal.
You already are, Betsy.
But we don't actually put a lot of value in doing things consistently over time, and that's where the magic is. That's where the compounding effects happen, and the real gold is. So I hope people can put into practice what you're sharing with them there. So to answer your question, 100 days after this, one thing I've been really working on, I think, lifestyle-wise, is this concept of working smarter, not harder. So last year when I was going through that, like, my health wasn't great. I was in a job that was very, 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 very stressful, and just sort of kind of getting a smack in the face to say, the way you're living your life right now is not good. You need to do something different, and sort of forcing myself to take pause and redirect. And I've really been trying to focus on putting energy into the areas that are most important to me. So first out, what is most important to me, and then being really efficient, because there are so many distractions out there these days, like, for example, mobile phones. It's always beeping, flashing, and so you're constantly getting interrupted. And so what should take, half an hour often takes 2 hours because you've just mucked about and looked at other things and come back and so forth. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about, like, the structure of my days and how do I get the most out of my time? When do I do my best work so that I can do all the things that I want to do without overwhelming myself and running out of gas. So, and I've found that that's been really beneficial during this time of isolation, is like keeping routines in place. So keeping the exercise, still eating well, doing my side hustle in the morning and for an hour in the evening, and then focusing on my day job during the day. All those sorts of little things are good. So I think I want to keep refining that to kind of like build that muscle. On the side hustles, I really want to get our online course launched. So we've got our boot camp that we run, but we've recorded this online course, but we haven't cut it and produced it to then publish it. So I'm hoping I can get that out and start sharing that with the world pretty soon. And then I feel like isolation's been great for my relationships. So I hope I can maintain that out of this time because, I don't think we've been more in love than we are right now. So
Oh, that's fantastic, Betsy.
yeah,
Well done.
exciting. And then
That's nice.
yeah, I'm just going to have a great time with all my friends and visit my family more because, as you know, I'm in Sydney, so I don't get up to Queensland near enough. And I think this time, it's just saying.
You need a pass at the border if you want to come up now.
I know. I'm not even let in. It's like, I'm a Mexican or something.
No, that's right. Hey, Betsy, we better wind up. We're over. We're having so much fun. We're over time, which has been great. But look, thanks for joining us today. I'm feeling like I'm going to have to get someone outside the family next week. I have you this week.
It's like
my daughter last week and so on. So I better get someone outside the family for next week. But, family is important, especially in this time. So it's been great to spend this time chatting with you, Beth. So thanks very much. And I'm really excited about all the stuff that you're doing. And I'm glad you're able to share it this morning, Beth. So thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great day. We'll see you on the outside at some point.
See you somewhere soon. Okay. Bye, sweetie. Bye.